Get this hazardous trash out of my exhibition hall. The sound wasn't a gavel hitting a desk. It was the sickening crunch of a polished leather boot slamming into rusted metal. Mr. Henderson, the head judge, didn't just disqualify my 12-year-old daughter. He physically kicked her invention. The barrel groaned under the impact. He pointed a shaking finger at us, his voice booming across the silent fairgrounds. This belongs in a landfill, not a science fair. Security! Remove the janitor and her junk. Now, before I tell you what happened next, drop a comment below. What time is it where you are right now? And have you ever had someone try to throw away your hard work? I want to hear your story. I did not cry. Tears are a luxury for people who believe the system will protect them if they just beg hard enough. I knew better. I have spent 6 years cleaning the floors of this town, emptying the trash cans in the council meeting rooms, and wiping down the mahogany tables where men like Mr. Henderson decide whose lives matter and whose do not. I know exactly what gets swept under the rugs in this county. The security guard, a man named Miller, who I had shared burnt coffee with on plenty of freezing night shifts, stepped forward. His hand reached for Sophia's shoulder to guide her away. I moved. It was not a frantic lunge. It was a geometric calculation. I placed my body between his hand and my daughter's shoulder with the solidity of a concrete wall. "Don't," I said. My voice was not loud. It was the temperature of deep space. Miller stopped. He looked at me, and for the first time, he did not see the woman in the gray jumpsuit who nodded pleasantly in the hallways. He saw a threat. My hand went to my pocket, finding the cracked screen of my phone. The glass was a spider web over the display, but the camera lens was clear. I did not open the camera app to take a picture. I opened the social media app. I hit the red button. "We are live," I announced, leveling the lens directly at Henderson's flushed, sweaty face. 400 people are watching right now. Say it again, Mr. Henderson. Tell the camera why you just kicked a 12-year-old girl's project. Henderson sneered, adjusting his expensive tie. "Put that away, Angela. You are embarrassing yourself. This is an exhibition for serious science, not whatever this is. You are trespassing." He thought he was dealing with a hysterical mother. He thought he could shame me into silence because I was the help. He forgot that the janitor has the master key. He forgot that we see the memos that do not make it into the official minute. We see the panic in the eyes of council members when the water quality reports come back with red ink. "You call this filtration system hazardous trash." I said, keeping the phone steady, my hand as still as stone. That is an interesting choice of words, councilman, because this barrel is the only thing in this room designed to filter out the heavy metals leaking into the groundwater from the old chemical plant. The same plant your brother-in-law was supposed to inspect last month but somehow forgot. Henderson's face went from angry red to the color of wet ash. The murmuring in the hall stopped dead. "That is slander," he hissed, stepping closer. "I will have you arrested." "It is not slander if we have the test results," I said. I did not raise my voice. I did not need to. The silence in the room amplified every syllable. "Sophia tested the water samples from the school fountains yesterday. Do you want me to read the lead levels to the live stream? Or do you want to let the security guard go?" I stepped closer to him, invading his personal space. The phone still recording his terror. "Touch my daughter, touch her property, and I will not sue you. I will not file a complaint you can bury in a filing cabinet. I will walk this barrel to the local news station. I will pour a glass of the tap water you claim is safe, and I will dare you to drink it on air." The security guard stepped back. He looked at Henderson, then at me. He knew who signed his checks, but he also knew who held the leverage. He lowered his hand. I did not smile. I did not celebrate. I just held the phone, a digital weapon pointed right at their reputation. "We are not leaving," I said, and neither are you. You ask why the rust bucket mattered, why a pile of scrap metal was worth risking my job, my reputation, and my safety for. You assume I fought because I am a mother, and mothers are supposed to fight. But that is only half the truth. The other half is darker. It is the story of how poverty teaches you to disappear. For 6 years, I perfected the art of being invisible. I learned to clean around people without them lifting their feet. I learned to fix things before anyone noticed they were broken. I learned that if I stayed quiet, if I kept my head down, if I never complained about the black mold in the staff break room or the brown water in the sinks, I could keep my job. I could keep the lights on. I could keep Sophia fed. I taught myself that silence was survival. I convinced myself that dignity was a price I could afford to pay if it meant stability. But Sophia never learned that lesson. While I was buffing floors, she was sitting in the supply closet under a flickering bulb, reading chemistry textbooks I had rescued from the recycling bins. While I was counting pennies for rent, she was sketching blueprints on the back of eviction notices because we could not afford notebook paper. That filtration system cost $150 to build. $150. That was our grocery budget for the entire month. It was the difference between eating fresh vegetables and eating instant noodles. It was the difference between new shoes for me and duct taping the soles of my old ones. I gave her the money without hesitation. Not because I thought she would win a ribbon, but because I watched her build it. I watched her hands, stained with grease and rust, connect valves and filters with a precision that terrified me. I watched her turn our garbage into something that worked. She did not see trash. She saw potential. She did not see a broken town. She saw a problem she could solve. And when I saw Henderson kick that barrel, when I saw him try to stomp out that spark in her eyes, something inside me snapped. It wasn't just anger. It was shame. Shame that I had spent so long teaching myself to be small that I almost let them make her small too. Shame that I had accepted their narrative that people like us don't innovate, we just clean up. That we don't have ideas, we just have bills. The moment he kicked her work, the silence broke. The survival mechanism I had carefully constructed for 6 years shattered. I realized that my silence wasn't protecting us. It was burying us. This wasn't about a science fair project anymore. It was about proving that brilliance doesn't need a budget. It was about proving that you can build a future out of the things other people throw away. I looked at the barrel, dented but standing. I looked at Sophia, trembling but defiant, and I knew we were done disappearing. Angela, be reasonable. The shout came from behind me. I didn't need to turn around to know who it was. I knew that voice. It was the voice that had promised to fix the leaky roof 3 winters in a row and never did. It was the voice that swore he'd pick up Sophia from school and then forgot because a poker game ran long. It was Kevin, my ex-husband, Sophia's father. He pushed through the small crowd that had gathered, breathless and red-faced. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking at Henderson, his eyes wide with a desperate, pleading look I knew too well. It was the look he used when he needed an extension on his rent, or a loan he swore he'd pay back next Friday. "Mr. Henderson, I am so sorry," Kevin stammered, smoothing down his shirt. I told her this was a bad idea. I told her this was a serious event. He turned to Sophia, and for a split second, I thought he might check if she was okay. I thought he might ask why a grown man had just kicked her project. Instead, he grabbed her arm. Not gently, he yanked her toward him, hard enough that she stumbled. "We're leaving," he hissed at her. "Stop embarrassing me." Sophia looked at him, her eyes wide with shock. "Dad!" He kicked it. He broke the valve. "It's junk, Sophia. It's a barrel of trash," Kevin shouted, his voice cracking. "Look around you. These people are professionals. You don't bring garbage to a place like this. You apologize to Mr. Henderson right now. He was shaking her. My daughter, the girl who had spent 3 months teaching herself fluid dynamics while he was at the track. He was shaking her like she was the problem. Henderson watched them, a smug smile spreading across his face. He crossed his arms, enjoying the show. Your father is right, young lady, Henderson said smoothly. And frankly, this behavior confirms my concerns. Bringing hazardous waste into a public building, endangering the other participants? He pulled out his phone. I think I need to call Child Protective Services. This looks like a clear case of parental negligence, endangering a minor with toxic materials. Kevin went pale. No, please, Mr. Henderson, that's not necessary. I'll handle her. I'll make sure this never happens again. We'll throw it out right now. Sophia, tell him you're sorry. He was throwing her to the wolves to save his own skin. He was willing to destroy her confidence, her hard work, her dignity, just to keep the peace with a man who wouldn't spit on him if he was on fire. The rage that had been a cold stone in my stomach suddenly ignited. It wasn't cold anymore. It was a forest fire. Let go of her, I said. Kevin ignored me. Sophia, apologize. I stepped forward and grabbed Kevin's wrist. My grip was strong. Years of wringing out heavy mop heads and hauling trash bags had given me hands that didn't slip. I squeezed until his knuckles turned white. I said, let go of my daughter. Kevin yelped and dropped his hand. He looked at me, stunned. Angela, you're making it worse. He's going to call CPS. Let him call, I said, stepping between him and Sophia again. Let him call the police. Let him call the governor for all I care. Because if he makes one more threat, I'm going to show everyone exactly why he's so afraid of a 12-year-old girl's science project. I looked at Henderson. You want to talk about negligence? Let's talk about the negligence of a town council that ignores lead warnings for 3 years. Let's talk about the negligence of a father who cares more about a pat on the head from a corrupt politician than his own daughter's brilliance. Kevin shrank back, muttering something about me being crazy. Henderson's smugness faltered. But before he could respond, a voice cut through the tension like a knife. Is that a reverse osmosis membrane filter? We all turned. Standing at the edge of the booth, looking completely unbothered by the shouting, was an old man. He looked homeless. His coat was patched at the elbows, his hair was a wild halo of gray static, and he was holding a half-eaten sandwich. He ignored us completely. He was staring at the dented barrel with the intensity of a bomb disposal expert. Well? The old man barked, looking up at Sophia. Is it? Sophia blinked, wiping a tear from her cheek. Yes. But it's modified. I used activated charcoal from aquarium filters to pre-scrub the volatile organics. The old man's eyes lit up. He dropped his sandwich on the floor. He didn't even notice. Genius, he whispered. Absolute genius. Who are you? Henderson demanded, taking a step toward the old man. This is a restricted area for judges and participants only. I asked the question, the old man said, his voice surprisingly deep and steady. He walked past Kevin as if he were a ghost and knelt beside the barrel. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small metallic case. It wasn't a sandwich wrapper. It was a portable water quality testing kit, a professional one, the kind that costs more than my car. Dr. George Mitchell, he said, not looking up, retired. And you're right, Mr. Henderson, this is restricted to people who actually understand chemistry. He flipped open the kit. Vials, reagents, a digital meter. He moved with the practiced efficiency of someone who had done this 1,000 times. He took a sample of the dirty water from the intake bucket the sludge Sophia had collected from the creek behind the factory. He ran the test. The meter beeped. He looked at the reading, then at Henderson. Cadmium levels are off the charts, Mitchell said calmly. Just like the last report you buried. Henderson froze. I don't know what you're talking about. Mitchell ignored him. He took a clean beaker and placed it under the output spigot of Sophia's filter. He turned the valve. Clear water trickled out. He didn't just test it. He held the glass up to the light, inspecting it for particulates. Then, he did something that made the entire room gasp. He raised the glass to his lips and drank it. My heart stopped. That water had been poisoned 10 minutes ago. It was runoff from the old chemical plant, full of things that could burn your insides. Mitchell swallowed. He lowered the glass. He smacked his lips. Clean, he announced. Better than what comes out of the taps at City Hall. He stood up and looked at Sophia. You used a dual-stage filtration process, didn't you? Mechanical separation for the solids, then chemical absorption for the toxins. Sophia nodded, her eyes wide. I read about it in a book about industrial waste management, but I couldn't afford the industrial filters, so I made my own. You made your own, Mitchell repeated, shaking his head in wonder. Out of scraps. He turned to the crowd. He looked at the parents who had sneered at us. He looked at the judges who had dismissed us. He looked at Kevin, who was still cowering in the corner. This girl just solved a problem that has baffled teams of engineers with million-dollar budgets, Mitchell said. She built a functional, scalable water purification system for less than $200. And you people, he gestured around the room with disgust. You people kicked it because it wasn't pretty. Henderson stepped forward, trying to regain control. This is preposterous. Who are you to come in here and lecture us? You're obviously just some crazy old man. I told you who I am, Mitchell said, his voice hard. I'm George Mitchell. Does the name ring a bell, Henderson? Henderson's eyes widened. The color drained from his face completely this time. Mitchell. Chemicals? That's right, Mitchell said. I founded the company that poisoned this town 20 years ago. I built that factory, and I have spent every day since I retired trying to figure out how to clean up the mess I made. He pointed a finger at Henderson. And you're the one I paid off to keep the EPA reports quiet, aren't you? The room exploded. Phones were out. Cameras were flashing. My live stream was blowing up. The comments were scrolling so fast I couldn't read them. Henderson tried to back away, but there was nowhere to go. The crowd had formed a circle around us. Miller, the security guard, had moved to block the exit. I never. Henderson stammered. Save it for the grand jury, Mitchell said. He turned back to Sophia. He reached into his coat again and pulled out a checkbook. I can't undo what I did, Mitchell said softly to her. I can't bring back the health of this town, but I can make sure your future is clean. The pen scratched across the paper, a sound louder than the crowd. He tore the check out and handed it to Sophia. $5 million, he said, for the patent, and a full scholarship to any university you want, on one condition. Sophia looked at the check. Her hands were shaking so hard she almost dropped it. What condition? You let me help you build this, Mitchell said. You let me help you save this town. Sophia looked at me. I was crying now. Real tears. Not tears of sadness, but tears of relief so profound, it felt like my soul was exhaling for the first time in years. She looked at her father. Kevin was staring at the check, his mouth open, a greedy light kindling in his eyes. He took a step forward. Sophia, honey, that's amazing. We can... Sophia stepped back. She looked at him with a coldness that broke my heart and healed it all at once. We? She said. There is no we. You kicked it, Dad. Remember? She turned to Mitchell. She didn't smile. She just extended her hand, small and grease-stained, to the man who had once poisoned her world and was now offering to help her heal it. Deal, she said. Henderson tried to slip away, but Miller put a hand on his chest. "I think the police are on their way, sir," Miller said, a grim smile on his face. "You might want to stick around." I looked at the barrel. The dent from Henderson's boot was still there, but now it wasn't a mark of shame. It was a battle scar. It was proof that we had won. "Let's go," I said to Sophia. We walked out of the exhibition hall together, hand in hand. The sun was shining outside, bright and warm on our faces. The air smelled of funnel cakes and popcorn, not ozone and fear. I looked down at my daughter. She was still clutching the check, but her eyes were fixed on the horizon. "Are you okay?" I asked. She looked up at me. "I'm better than okay, Mom. I'm ready." 6 months later, Henderson was indicted on 12 counts of environmental negligence and bribery. Kevin was still trying to call, but his number was blocked on every device we owned. And Sophia? Sophia was in a brand new laboratory built on the site of the old factory. The walls were white and clean. The equipment was state-of-the-art. And on the wall, framed in glass, was a dented, rusted barrel with a boot print on the side. She poured a glass of water from the tap. It was crystal clear. She took a sip, smiled, and handed it to me. "To the future," she said. "To the rust," I replied, clinking my glass against hers. Because sometimes the most valuable things in the world aren't the shiny ones. They're the ones that have been kicked, dented, and thrown away. They're the ones that survived. If you've ever had to build your dreams out of someone else's scraps, share this video. Let's remind the world that diamonds aren't found in jewelry stores, they're found in the rust. Subscribe for more stories of the unseen rising up.